We're just a weekend away from the end of the Biden administration and the start of Trump 2. It's a good time to take a look back at Biden's term and expectations for the next 4 years. Biden had some notable successes and failures. So, Sarah, how do you assess his presidency?
Well, like you said, it's a mixed bag, obviously. But I think that on the domestic legislative front, it's undeniable that he's had massive successes. I mean, if you look at the infrastructure bill, you look at the CHIPS Act, Inflation Reduction Act, these are things that could potentially, if carried through, fully implemented, could transform the American economy in many communities that are currently struggling. These are really massive investments that other presidents have tried to do and have failed to do. But the problem is the impacts have not been felt entirely yet because it takes a long time to build things. And also he doesn't seem to be getting credit from the very people that are benefiting from it. There was a really great article in the Washington Post I'd encourage people to read that profiled Liberty, North Carolina, which is a really struggling town, very tiny town that used to have more textile and furniture manufacturing. And Toyota has now expanded their operations there to the tune of $14 billion. They are hiring 5,000 people, many of which they've already hired. And this reporter went down there and asked the folks, about this. Not one person gave the Biden administration credit for these jobs and for the revival of their economy, which is already occurring. These are people who now don't have to travel to go or leave the area to get good paying jobs. And so there's a problem. Obviously, he's not getting credit for a lot of this. And part of that might be partisan, biases, but there's other probably reasons as well.
Okay, but those legislative accomplishments were real, and they were seemed to be successful, but there were some problems he had too. It kind of started for him with Afghanistan.
Well, it did, but I think as a historian, we should know how he's done in a couple of decades. Mm-hmm. So that's really, that's a historian's answer for that. And for foreign policy, I think there's some good and some bad. He did bring back allies that worked together. So I think being able to work together for against China, really well done. He executed the Trump plan in Afghanistan, which went disastrously, and because he didn't get that many people. Personally, I'm more angry at him for just running for president again. Mm-hmm. I just think he was completely out of it. And when we saw him in the debate, it was like, holy cow, is this the guy that's been in charge for so long? He had great people around him, but he should not have run again.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the Democratic Party suffers from this strange situation where it doesn't know whether it is actually a party of the professional managerial kind of corporate class, or is it the party of the working class and labor? And Biden kind of reflects that, right? So, I mean, in one ways, yes, he had many pro-labor policies. Lina Khan is an excellent appointee who was going after monopolistic trends in United States. But, I must criticize, because I'm an equal opportunity offender when it comes to this kind of stuff. I mean, the hypocrisy surrounding Russia and Israel, that was just mind-boggling. We are seeing ethnic cleansing right in front of our eyes day after day. Violation of the Leahy Acts, and he just went on carrying this. So he had aided and abetted genocide. And another couple of more things, right? One is the pardon of his son. Why? That is so strange. Don't do that. If this happened in the third world or whatever, developing world, we'll like, oh, look, this is what happens there, but this is happening right here. Then he pardons this judge who used to send kids to jail. Some kids committed suicide.
In the big picture, that's a pretty small thing.
Okay. I mean, these are the people he pardons.
I haven't heard one word yet, and that word, Chad, is inflation.
No, the word is disappointing. Every one of you has said, he is the most disappointing president in my lifetime, because when we started this, I had high hopes. I had this expectation that we were going to return to a world of normalcy, but instead we got geopolitical chaos, and we got a continuation of Trump-era populist protectionism. Every one of those successes that Sarah had mentioned comes with a big old but, and some of it is Well, you know, like The Economist said, like he's got a slightly more sanitized version of Mr. Trump's America First worldview. And so the Inflation Reduction Act, that was inflationary. The green energy policies that he proposes, or that he passed, had America First protectionist components to it that did kind of alienate our allies a little bit. And of course, these kinds of populist ideas, they're very popular bad ideas. They're the ideas that Trump had in 2016, and he's going to continue with them in this second term. So looking forward, those things aren't going to go away. They're going to continue to be inflationary. They're going to continue to alienate our allies, and it's going to be a continued return to like Depression-era economics.
I have to disagree with you on some of that. I mean, first of all, inflation was a global problem, and so the United States was not an outlier around that. A lot of that was out of Biden's control. Now, there is some disagreement that maybe some of the policies had an additional inflationary impact, but things like the Inflation Reduction Act were massive investments in clean energy that's going to help us meet our climate goals. And that is the biggest climate policy we've had since we've learned about the existential crisis of climate change. And that can have reverberating effects. And so I have to strongly disagree with that. I think these are necessary investments that are going to, in the long run, like Ty said, really pay off.
But there's the buts, okay? I'm not arguing that green energy policy is a bad idea. I'm arguing that there were components of his green energy policy that were fundamentally protectionist, that said that you get these credits if these things if you're getting components that are made in America and things like that. Also, a lot of that wasn't actually incremental, like we're moving toward green energy. It was really just subsidies for people who were going to buy green.
So
green
the most
energy.
disappointing,
most disappointing.
I tell you, I don't know who hasn't disappointed by the end of it. Clinton at the end of his term with Lewinsky, Bush at the end with Iraq, Reagan at the end with Iran-Contra, Nixon at the end. You're not old enough.
No, I'm not old enough.
But I think that is, historically speaking, that's a little narrow.
No, disappointing means he started at 53% and he's ending at 37% approval rating.
That's not
Nobody's.
unusual.
That is
not
so.
unusual.
That is.
But it's low. But it's low.
Very unusual. No, I mean, he has also expanded oil and natural gas. I gave an F in this show. It's not that he was not against. I mean, he had allowed all these contracts for using oil and natural gas. And again, I will come back. I'll give one example. Please let me say this.
Okay,
Meera Sachdeva was a doctor who defrauded Medicare by diluting chemotherapy drugs, got 20 years in prison, but pardoned by Biden. Why? Why?
Yeah. I would also say disappointing means Trump gets back into office.
That's right.
Well, yes.
That may be the bottom line there, is he ran to turn the page on Trump, and
Yeah.
in fact, he didn't. So